Hey everyone, it's Ashley with 7CI. I encourage you to watch this interview that CBN News reporter John Jessup did with Alveda King, who is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece. They talk about protests and the riots that are going on and everything that's kind of happening in our country right now. And I will say that Mrs. King gives some amazing and encouraging, hope-filled advice, so I encourage you to watch it.
Well, here with us now is Dr. Alveda King, Director of Civil Rights for the Unborn for Priests for Life. Dr. King, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much, John.
As the niece of civil rights legend Martin Luther King Jr., what do you think would be his reaction to the violence we saw earlier this week in some of the riots across the country? I know it's something that you've spoken out about.
My uncle, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a Baptist preacher, often spoke of the ministry of Jesus Christ. He did his best to follow in those steps. Martin Luther King Jr. said that violence is immoral. He was a very nonviolent person. Actually, the media, for some reason, and some of the rioters and all of those types took his quotation and said that riots are the language of the unheard. Martin Luther King Jr. did say that, but in the rest of that sentence, they cut the sentence off. He began to talk about how violence was impractical and immoral. And I'll add that violence is disrespectful. It damages and it hurts. If you think about George Floyd's family, and I watched the memorial service yesterday, they were grieving his brother Terrence says, "We want justice, but we do not support destruction." So I believe that my uncle, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., would agree with Terrence and his family.
What did you think he meant by the phrase violence is the language of the unheard? Not the part where it's being taken out of context, but what did he specifically mean by that?
When people are violent and emotional, people don't think rationally. I have that same problem. When I get frustrated and angry, I begin to lose my focus and I cannot articulate to my audience solution. My uncle understood that, and that's why violence is so unproductive. What it will produce is rage and anger and breaking and destroying. And then once that's all done, somebody has to pick up the pieces.
Right.
If someone has been killed, you can't even pick those pieces up.
Well, fortunately, we've seen the protests now largely turn peaceful. Is now the time for repentance and prayer?
Absolutely, repentance and prayer are in order. I have been praying with groups. I've been praying individually. As we do 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways and seek my face, then I'll hear from heaven, forgive their sins and heal their lands. That's God talking. And so I have been encouraging the peaceful protesters to not give up, to continue to pray. I remember my father, Reverend A.D. King, in 1963. We were in Birmingham, Alabama. Our home had been bombed. A.D. and Naomi King and the 5 children were inside. And I remember my daddy rushing out because the outside agitators were there. And they had the Molotov cocktails. That's when I first heard of that, the flammable substance and a rag stuck in a bottle and you light it and you throw it.
Right.
And turning over police cars and bricks and rocks. And Daddy stood on a car and he says, wait a minute. If you have to hit somebody, hit me, but I'd rather you go home. Okay, go home and pray. The people began to calm down. That happened in Ohio just a few days ago. Brian Kemper, my colleague, we worked together at Priests for Life. And Brian was with a sea of young people, children, and they were being instigated and people were trying to agitate them. And he says, this is Alveda King, Martin Luther King's niece. Pray, Alveda. And I did. And, they began to listen and cry because I talked to them about their purpose and their destiny and asking God to define that and bless it. So peacemakers, arise.
Peacemakers, Jesus said, they will be called the children of God. Where do we go from here as a nation?
We must continue to do what we're seeing. I believe today, as we speak, during this week, the employment thing is leveling off again. Unemployment is going back down. Employment is going up. People are rebuilding as things open. Back in 2000, when 9/11 happened, everybody said they would rebuild, but they really kind of forgot to ask God, we will rebuild, we will do this. You can't do this to America. This time, we're saying God will help us rebuild. We are one nation under God. In God, many of us still trust. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take faith. It's going to take hope. It's going to take love. And when we do this, we'll see that we'll make it through COVID-19, through the race wars of 2020. God is going to help us.
Powerful words to end on. Dr. Alveda King, thanks for being with us today.
Hey everyone, I'm Ashley Key. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so we can reach more people with encouraging content like you just watched, and so you never miss a beat. See you next time, and God bless.